Hey guys, it is day 15 of the Rise Up Challenge, and I didn't want to wait so late to go live. I have class at 12 o'clock with my ALPCC, um, my fellow ALPCC classmates, and our fearless leader, the Rebecca Lynn Pope. And today in my live, I just got done reading one of the lessons here in the Priscilla Shower Elijah Bible study, Faith and Fire. And there's something in there that I want to read because it touches on some things that I've been thinking about, and some things that God has done that too. You know, we say God, some things that God has put on our hearts, but it's usually a little more simpler than that. It's like you read something and you see something that there's this current, recurring theme that is like, hello, pay attention to what I'm saying to you. And I mean, this study I recommend to anybody. It really convicts you and makes you think about your life and your purpose and what God has given you. In my coaching business, I will say this. In my coaching business, my goal is always to help people. And over the course of my life, I've straddled the fence between, spiritual and secular. And what I mean by that is that I realize that I've always been somewhat of a people pleaser, meaning, you don't want to offend someone who is not a Christian person or a spiritual person, but then you don't want to, but then not speaking your truth also makes you feel like a phony, right? Like if something comes to mind or comes up in your heart or your mind and you want to speak on it or talk about it, if you're unsure of what your friends think or believe, we often will just remain silent. And I think that is what's wrong with our society. We are remaining silent. I mean, and I think a lot of things would have been solved, and we wouldn't have as much turmoil right now in our government, in our police force, with social injustices and unrest and things that are happening. We wouldn't have all of that if we would just be authentic and speak our truth. Hey, Ishel, I know we have class in 9 minutes, but I'm going to get through this and get this done. But in this study, or in my lives, first off, I've been sticking with 2 Timothy, 1st chapter, 7th verse. God did not give us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. And I first started talking about fear, and then I started talking about power, and then I'll wrap it up talking about a sound mind. But in thinking about power and thinking about the power that we have, and many of the other coaches and people have been talking about this too, our power is in our experience. Like, you may not necessarily have gone to school to be a doctor or a lawyer, but if you've had experience with the courts, if you've had experience with relationships, with divorce, with co-parenting, with experience with abortion, experience with rape, experience with fibroids, or infertility, or if you've had experience with any of those things, you have a different perspective, and you can bring that perspective to the table and actually help someone else that's going through it. But often what happens is these traumatic experiences and things happen to us in our lives, and we remain silent. My family's like that. We love hard, we care for each other. Everybody wants to do for the other. But oftentimes when we're personally going through something privately, we shut up and we don't say anything. And some of us, the younger generation, is starting to discover why that's a problem. If your dad has an issue with diabetes, or mom has an issues with endometriosis and fibroids and things like that, because our generation is starting things later. Typically, we're not getting married as early, we're not having babies as early. When you neglect to have those conversations about what you went through when you were younger with your now child who's your age, then you are missing out on being able to help your family member, right? Because a lot of things are hereditary, things like that. So our experiences are so important, even within the context of just our close family and friends. I pulled this up and I was reading today, and this was like boop, 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 boop. And I was like, okay, I have to read this on my live today. And it's on page 104 of the Elijah Study. So some people on here may be doing it with me. She's doing like it's probably over for most people, but it's such a deep dive that it's taken me longer than the 7 weeks that was planned to do it. But in the margins, she has 2 Corinthians 1st chapter 4th verse. He comforts us in all our affliction, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any kind of affliction through the comfort we ourselves receive from God. So when I read that, I thought about all my singleness and my single friends and all the single people out there that constantly get, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you married? Why don't you have a child? Those kind of things. And I realized that the assumption is because we don't appear to have baggage, that something's wrong with us, or we haven't lived. And I will say that many of us, and maybe I'm speaking to other people who should be speaking out and being coaches and helping other people. Maybe I'm speaking to people that need a coach like myself to help work through these issues. But in our singleness, we have just handled things a little differently. Okay? We have been I'll say masters of deception. That sounds bad, but it's just, we have been a master of being able to look on the outside like everything is perfect and everything's okay. And I realize that more and more when I talk to clients. They feel like I've never had an issue with my weight. I've never had issues with eating. They feel like I've never had to struggle with anything. That I feel like I am always unorganized, and they feel like I'm always the most organized and on top of things. And the perception and reality are two separate things. I cry, I get upset, I have moments of weakness. There are things, traumatic experiences that have happened to me in my life that I have glossed over and masked as if they were nothing. You know, maybe I've had confidants like my best friends at the time, or my mother, or, you know, people close to me that has helped me through various situations. And in front of the camera, in front of people, in front of my clients and classes and different things that I've done as a coach, as an office manager, as a teacher, as a college instructor. Like, it all on the surface appears to be perfectly together. And I want to just say to you and everybody out there in the world is that everybody has been through something. It's how we handle it and where we find our refuge that makes the difference. Every breakup, every misfortune, every hardship that I've been through, God has been right there, right there, right there in my singleness, right there in my loneliness, right there when I just thought that that was the end, that I wanted to give up on life, on love, on having a future, on all of those things. I just want to say to you is that is where my strength comes from. There was more that I was going to read, but I'm already at my limit of time, and I'm going to save some of that for tomorrow when I go live. But blessings and abundance to you all. Think about that. I will include my link, and I will add this to my YouTube channel and to Facebook and all that, so that you can rewatch it, or you can ask questions in the comments or DM me if you are looking for a coach, or if you feel like being a coach is something that you are interested in doing. I'd be happy to share the information with you. But blessings and abundance to you all. Have a fantastic Thursday. See you tomorrow.